Before we get started today into the meat of the topic, if you will, if you can forgive the term, I do want to let you know that it is okay to like women. That's right. This conversation we're about to have is going to get a little rocky at times thanks to the participants involved and their idea about how male-female relationships ought to work. But before we do get into talking about that, I want to tell you out there that it is okay to like women. You can have your preference to not want to game with women. You can have your preference to want to game with women. You can have your preference to not want to game with people who don't speak your language. That's perfectly fine. You can not want to game with other men. Perhaps you're the fella that feels more comfortable in the company of lady folk. That's perfectly fine. You're allowed to do that. Preference is important. And that's one thing that we really need to get back to in this whole gaming thing. It's not just about the people who you're playing with, right? Your fellow player. We're talking about preference in gaming, okay? And this is Ninja's preference, is what we're about to get into. You remember Ninja, the guy that did the Fortnite thing, and he was really popular, and you remember Ninja, right? Ninja, this guy right here, you remember. He's not seeing enough movement. Remember that guy? Well, according to Dexerto, he had some things to say about what we just talked about. Preference. About whether or not he'd like to game with women or even be in the same room with a woman who is not his wife. Now, you remember this stance from Mike Pence, right? People were mocking him that he didn't, trust himself to be around another woman. He didn't feel comfortable being in the presence of a woman because he'd be tempted, or to go some type of nefarious attitude behind this, forgetting that perhaps that nefarious attitude is exactly why he doesn't want to hang out with them. So, according to Dexerto, in their interview, Ninja says he spoke on his relationship and why he never DMs anyone outside of his boys. Quote, "I'm never alone in a room with another woman." I happen to think that's bad phrasing. He kind of like with another woman. So it's like, are you the woman in this equation? Nah, no, he's not talking about that. He's talking about his wife. He's just Fortnite brain. I'm sorry. When you do full-time Fortnite, your brain just kind of gets a little like to the point, I guess, right? You're like fast track to get into Victory Road there. So the Victory Royale, whatever it is. But this is Jessica Cogswell. She is an editor for, let me just check on this because I forgot in this instance we were talking. She is for the GameSpot editor, right? We'll see right here. She is taking issue with what Ninja has to say about his own personal relationship and how he governs himself, okay? So I want to take a minute, though, and actually, let's take a minute and appreciate this person is telling Ninja that he should not fear being alone with women. I just want you to just kind of take in a minute right here, what we're looking at, and say, aha, I see why he has that opinion, right? I'm just, it's a discredit to Vincent Valentine that he's up in the banner. I just want to say, like, come on, lady, you're definitely Shinra Corp, okay? But that's not, it's not helping anybody putting Vincent up there. That's a disservice to him. So this is what she had to say about Ninja not wanting to put himself in a position that, let's say, Dr. Disrespect found himself in. Let's say Mini Lad found himself in. Let's say the slew of other YouTubers and Twitch streamers in recent years have found themselves in because they started talking to people who were not members of their own value system. Let's put it that way. Because again, like I said, you can have your preference. You can want to game with women. You can want to not game with them. You can want to game with people of a different race, a different language, a different religion, or not. This is all perfectly fine. No one is being hurt in this equation. Not a single soul is being hurt when you say, no thanks, I only game with dudes. Nobody. Nobody's hurt by that. I promise you, nobody's hurt by that. Well, we have Jessica Cogswell, the editor over there at the GameSpot. And so this is what she has to say. She said, he said this forever ago, and I'll repeat what I said then. This line of thinking is so deeply misogynistic. You do you, I guess, but you are admitting you see a woman's presence as inherently sexual. You are directly contributing to the gaming industry remaining a boys' club. She says that with that avatar, that you see women as inherently sexual, with that avatar. Now, I promise you, this woman is going to be the first in line to tell you, I dress like that for me. I dress in the mirror like that so I feel pretty. I put my boobs out for everybody to see because I want them to see them. It's not I want to impress men. I am proud of my boob edge, and I just want to show everybody everywhere all over X. Okay, that's what's happening right here. This is not me editing. This is not Grum's editing. This is her profile picture, and she's... You see women as sexual. By the way, take a look at my top. That is not a tank top, by the way. It's a boob window. Like, it interrupts your vision to call attention to the boobs. You can't make this stuff up. You can't make it up, man. Like, there's no Hollywood writing team that can invent this kind of just absolute self-unawareness. You know, I invented that, self-unawareness, right? So the lack of self-awareness is the proper term, by the way, but I just feel inventive today. But anyway, Jessica Cogswell goes on to say this. She says, God, if I made as much money as this dude, if I had as much fame and influence and said, I don't want to work with men and won't be in the same room as one alone, the backlash would be astounding. No, because they say this all the time. We're told all the time that certain people don't want to be, like Pokimane doesn't want to be alone with dudes, that kind of thing. Like, why would you want to, by the way? Why would you want to be alone with a dude that's not your husband? Let's say that you're married. I'm going to assume you're not, Jessica, judging by your boob window. But call me presumptive, you know. I just don't know too many married women that want to put a billboard under their neck. But whatever. So she goes on. She's already blocked one person who retweeted and essentially said, maybe he just doesn't want women to make stuff up and take control of the narrative like you're already doing, thus proving his point, quote unquote. Because I have literally zero desire to deal with annoying people who hate women. Let's just take a minute and think about this, right? Think this through. She's dressed like this in her profile picture, accusing him of seeing women as inherently sexual. She goes down and she says, I would be in trouble if I said I didn't want to work with men, if I didn't want to be in the same room alone with a man. And no, you wouldn't. There's a slew of female gamers that do this. There's a ton of them out there that do this. And absolutely, they should be allowed to. There's whole VTuber groups that are all female and strictly all female, and they don't play with male gamers. That's perfectly fine. You, in fact, invite less variable for trouble. Because you know what happens? You know, like I said at the top, it's okay to like women. And wouldn't you know, men like women and women like men. Now, I know I'm taking a lot of liberties here, assuming that men like women because, you know, there's just no factual evidence to support this, right? There's no science on Earth to support this, right? It's coming. Wait, they're going to say it. Eventually, they're going to tell us there's nothing supporting heterosexual relationships. But for right now, take my word that boys like girls and girls like boys, okay? And then when they grow up into adults, men like women and women like men. Most of the time, in fact, that's actually kind of like the standard. Crazy, right? And so what happens is when you get these two things that like each other in a space, well, they like each other. And sometimes that like burns off pretty quick. Some people call this puppy love. I call it a sugar high. But that's what happens. You get in with somebody who's like, oh, dude, I'm really into Minecraft. No way, you're into Minecraft? Oh, that's so awesome. But if they're the opposite sex, you can start bonding over this. You can start having an emotional relationship with this person because they share your interest in something. In fact, that's kind of how most couples meet, even regardless of their sexual preference. Isn't that weird, right? You can just meet somebody because you both like something at the same time and you like each other too because you kind of got the same view of it. Weird, right? Or your views complement each other. My third fiance was a militant third wave leftist. Like she made her own zine in college, right? That's how dedicated she was to being like the third wave feminist gonna bring the man down thing, you know? And we used to argue a lot about this, but her views complemented mine. I didn't want the extreme measures she did, but we were both headed in the same direction. And that's the thing that happens is that people who have the same value system tend to like each other. And guess what? In gaming, you tend to have the same value system. People who play World of Warcraft tend to have a value system that lean toward that sort of online behavior that's there. People who are in Fortnite tend to have an online behavior that's associated with that. People in Call of Duty definitely have an online behavior associated with that, okay? So when you put a man and a woman together and they have a mutual interest, odds are they're going to start flirting with each other. It's not a myth, it's not speculation, it's not theory. You're here because that happened. You and I exist or because a man and a woman got together and they liked each other for whatever reason and for however long. Which brings me to why this is a problem. Why her complaining about this whole thing is a problem, okay? Will Ninja step out on his wife? No. But he's a man. So at some point, he's going to make a comment that will either be intentionally flirty or it will be mistaken as flirty, okay? This is just what happens when men talk to women. Most, even the parties involved, assume that there is some ulterior motive to it. Women expect this out of men, men expect it out of women. It's just how it goes. In a professional workplace, we see this happen over and over and over again. Like I said, mutual interests, setting, motivation, babies. It's not that hard, okay? But is Ninja going to go out and step out on his wife with Jessica Cogswell if they were to play Fortnite together? Probably not. I'm going to guarantee that's probably not going to happen. I'm going to guarantee it's not going to happen. There's no guarantee then probably. That's weird. So I'm going to guarantee that's not going to happen, especially in Jessica's case. The boob window's weird. I'm sorry. It's just, why did you do that? Don't do that. That's weird. Cover up or wear a tank top. Make a decision. Don't be middle of the road on this stuff. It looks ridiculous. It looks like you're like, oh, it's so hot in this t-shirt. I'm just gonna cut a boob vent in here. I need to vent my boobs. I don't get it. You're not Power Girl. Don't do that. All right? It's weird. Back to Ninja. So this is what he's pointing out, is that among guys, we're all kind of pointed in the same direction. Group of guys get together. We go back into that hunter motif that we had back in the primordial age when we had to get together in order to avoid being overwhelmed by like coyotes or were saber-toothed tigers around during the time of man? Let me know down in the comments if you're familiar with that. Did the saber-toothed tiger ever fight mankind? I know we like to show that in movies and comics and video games, but you know, as we've learned with Assassin's Creed, those aren't exactly historically accurate. I'm just saying, man. I'm just saying and getting my thumb tangled in my cords. But I'm just saying, okay? I'm just saying. So Ninja is hanging out with his boys, and they're all pointed in the same direction. When you get like 3 to 5 guys in a group together, they will find a position. There will be one guy that calls the shots, and everybody will find their position behind that guy. It's just how it goes. And it may alternate. And in a different setting, the 5th guy may be the lead guy because he knows what's up in that setting. It's just how we work. And a group of guys can travel between different games and again, find their niche when that setting changes, when the demand of what the activity is changes. It's not that women aren't capable of this. It's that men become more interested in being friends with the women than getting the job done. Because again, women are attractive to men. Men are attractive to women. We tend to like each other, okay? This is not to say that men and women can't exist in a professional environment. But what I'm telling you is that the likelihood of trouble happening is much higher when you start mixing people together than it is when they're not mixed together like this. When you have a co-ed dwelling, you're going to end up having babies. You're going to end up having babies, you know? It's like when you accidentally mix up your male mice with your lady mice, and all of a sudden you got a lot of mice with your bunnies. Get your boy bunnies with your girl bunnies, and you've got a lot of baby bunnies. It's not rocket science. And so this is what Ninja is telling us. He's saying, I don't want to like raise the level of threat to my career any higher than it already is. So I'm going to remove any doubt from anybody's mind, and I'm going to make sure that I don't invite people in here that otherwise would cause trouble. And again, I'm not saying that women inherently will walk in and cause trouble in a gaming environment. We see this all over YouTube, that's not the case. You've got Pionk, and you've got oh god, Pasta, I think her name is Pastaroni. She's the girl with the funny laugh. She's got that weird raspy laugh that's adorable. She does the VTuber thing. I think it's Pastaroni, and a slew of other lady gamers that are out there. I just can't think of them at the moment. It's nothing against them. I'm just focused on this story, and I just can't think of them. But these women that I mentioned, they don't have any problem getting along with a bunch of other guys. You got Speedy in there, you got Nogla in there, you got Smitty in there. All those guys interact with these women and have no problem. That can happen. But the likelihood of flirtation happening is much higher than if it were just a bunch of dudes and just a bunch of women being separate from one another. And this is what Ninja is talking about. He's talking about, I don't want to risk my career by inviting somebody around that may get the wrong idea, or perhaps we end up participating in something that is the wrong idea. And that's what I want to impress upon you. Have your preference, but please understand the decision you make will have consequences one way or another. As you can see with Ninja, you can't just be with your boys. You can't just hang out with the squad, okay? Because you're going to get in trouble for just being a group of guys. You can't just be a group of guys. Can't go stag. That's not allowed. Can't be a bunch of stags. Not allowed. However, throwing a woman into that mix, you end up having the likelihood of something romantic forming. It might not be with Ninja, but he's with his boys. So if this girl is part of the group, eventually somebody's going to try and take their shot. It's how men work. It's how women work. You've seen this all over the internet. I wish men would approach more. You see TikTok videos all the time of these girls crying in their cars that they don't feel like they're being like noticed because men aren't approaching them. And then they're complaining when they say no to a guy and he goes away. He doesn't pursue her any further. There's no game if you see here. And so this is what Ninja is saying. Like, don't fall for that kind of stuff. It just don't bother, okay? If you're gonna bring in stuff into your professional environment that's going to raise the likelihood of trouble happening, don't do that. Like I said, these TikTok girls, they want to be approached. Right? And I'm not saying that every girl gamer is a TikTok girl that wants to be approached. Don't make that mistake. What I'm trying to tell you is that the likelihood of trouble happening is very high. But we're not done yet. Our favorite Kotaku editor, Alyssa Mercante, wants to come in and let everybody know how she feels about this. And she says, this is why gamers are not okay. So I don't know what that means. She talks about like racism and sexism and transphobia and fat phobia and all these other phobics in her writing and stuff like that, especially her screed about Assassin's Creed. That was the whole thing. She brought January 6th into that. She brought Trump into that. She brought Russiagate into it, like Gamergate even into it. I am surprised a picture of Sargon of Akkad can't be derived from like looking at the text from a different angle, right? Like if you printed it out and put a black light over it, you'd see like Sargon of Akkad imprinted into the article, right? Just so much hatred in that one screed from her over on Kotaku. And now we come over here, we're like, men not playing games with women is why gamers are not okay. And she goes down and she says, a misogynistic culture that continues to demonize women and queer folks while glorifying mediocre or outright problematic straight white men. So Alyssa went on and on to us about the racism of people in Japan not wanting to have the history of the Sengoku period rewritten. That being racism somehow, but her just singling out white dudes, that's perfectly fine. Because absolutely anyone in power within gaming is a white guy. There's nobody else. Not a single other soul out there. Nope. And it's all Ninja too, by the way. There's no other Twitch streamer. There's no other YouTube streamer. There's just him. And so this is her complaint, is that guys like him are getting attention and not her. Guys like him are getting attention and not Jessica. And in reality, the fact of the matter is that Ninja has a point, because look at what they've done. They've gone out here and demonized even the effort to ensure that there wouldn't be any casting couch stuff. There wouldn't be any Harvey Weinstein stuff, right? Let's say that there would be a legitimate threat, right? He's making sure that that's not possible. Okay? And on his end, he's protected legally. If you don't invite the trouble in, if you don't go drilling holes in your boat, it's not going to sink, Odds are if you're just cruising the wide open ocean, if you don't go drilling holes in your boat, you're not going to sink, right? If you see a storm on the horizon and just, crank her right over into that, right? You're just going to headlong right into that, full steam ahead, then yeah, you're probably going to sink. But if you see that and you don't drill holes in your boat, you're good. Am I telling you not to have women in your group? No, I'm not. What I'm telling you is that know the person you're bringing in. Know them in and out, upside down, backwards and forwards. Make sure that they understand that all romantic things are off the table. If this is a professional environment, it should be treated like that. You should be going into this environment the way you would go into an accounting firm, all right? Have fun, enjoy yourself, have a great laugh, but anything other than that has to be left at the door, okay? And again, you don't have to do that with your bros. You don't have to lay down the law with your bros. Your bros are like, okay, dude, we're just gonna do this thing. I get the vibe you're putting down, so I'm not gonna go and say horrible things while we're live. I'll save that for Call of Duty voice chats. I'm sorry, I just know the environment, right? That's where you go if you want to get something really dangerous off your chest. But again, like, so this is what we're looking at is these women are angry now. It's not enough that you don't want to harass them. You don't even want to put yourself in a position where you could possibly be perceived as harassing them. That's not enough. You should want to be harassed. In fact, it's misogynistic that you don't want to harass women. I'm waiting for that to come out, right? I'm waiting for that to come out that you don't, because men aren't pursuing women with the vigor that they did in the 1600s or whatever, right? With that kind of like persistence. This is the problem with gaming, you know? Because it's going to come from these people, not normal gamer lady folk like Pastaroni and Pionk, like I mentioned earlier, right? You know, and again, like, you're not going to like find those people out there saying these things. They work with men. They don't have a problem. They don't overlap. They understand a professional relationship should not lead to a romantic one. That's how the wheels go off the bus. But I digress, okay? Just remember, as you go out into the world, whatever you do, make sure the people that are surrounding you are on your side, okay? Now, what I do is I just talk to people before I game with them, right? I met a very nice young lady who's in college, and I adopted her as like my internet daughter. I'm very proud of her. She's graduated now. She's got her whole degree for going forward. She's becoming a teacher. She used to be the captain of 3 esports teams. And we shared a lot in common, but I did not want to get up in her business. It's not because of the age difference. I'm 34 and she was 23. There was no problem there. There was no hiccup there. But the thing is that we had mutual interests. We were gaming together. We used to play Minecraft together before her school got too busy. Her schoolwork got too busy and all of her sporting things. I showed up to her esports events and supported her. You know, made up hashtags to support her in the chat while they were kicking ass out there on screen. And the thing is that at no point was I ever trying to angling to get with her. I didn't think like that. And I know you don't either. That you have female friends out there that you don't think that way about. You don't want to be a romantic with, right? And similarly, they can be friends with you, like my adopted daughter, my internet adopted daughter. We can be friends. We can talk about it. She shares her life with me. She tells me about her boyfriends. She tells me about the adventures that she goes on in real life and all the crazy things she sees in the parts of the world that she goes to. And that's fine. That's great. I'm very proud of her that she's able to go and do all of that and do that just so full of life, right? I'm so happy that she can go out there and just shout to the world that she's alive. She's not living in fear like Alyssa Mercante and Jessica Cogswell. And that's what I ask you to do out there. Just know the people you're gaming with and understand that the first time that you get shut down, that's okay. You're not an evil person. Accept that that's not going to work for you and move on. It's okay. Odds are they don't hate you. They may even be flattered that you thought that way about them, but they don't receive those feelings back. That's okay. And I'm talking to both of you, male and female. It's okay. If you open your heart to him and he doesn't want it back, that's fine. There's no reason to run and hide. There's no reason to go out and be angry about it either. It's just people. People, I'm going to remind you, right? For our male and lesbian, bisexual, whoever's watching this, right? It's okay to like women, and you can even like take off that woo part. It's okay to like men too. The thing is just don't go and turn that into a romantic relationship in a professional setting. That's all Ninja's trying to tell everybody. And look at the success he's had by keeping himself safe. Okay? Remember, you are the only one that can protect you. You are the only one that can protect you. Until the next video, though, good luck out there.